think you should.
Welcome to this week's episode of Whoscussion. As we know, Series 10's gone ahead and wrapped up. We're waiting for its final story this Christmas. So we've gone back to our old format of 2 Doctor Who classic stories, which will one day lead into 2 Doctor Who new series stories, which, for better or for worse. Oh my god, that means we're going to have to do the Slovene two-parter.
Hey.
Anyway, so we're going to be doing this week Terminus, another episode in the 20th season of Doctor Who, well, another serial rather, and finishing it off with Enlightenment, and then jumping into part B with Doctor Who in the Nightmare Game, our first comic strip in about 4 months, and finishing it off with part 1 of the Jago and Lightfoot revival.
Yes.
Yes. Jago, oh man, I love that they, hang on, I'll talk about it when we get to part B, because I just really want to talk about that. But Terminus, Harriet's going to take us away.
Okay, so this is a really interesting story, honestly. Not only is it well, I guess a send-off story as well. Spoiler again for a really old story.
Spoiler for a 30-year-old story.
It's just kind of what we do around here, really.
That's our MO.
So, continuing on with the standard setting of this 20th season. This is it the 20th anniversary season?
It is indeed.
So really sells that. Continuing on with the feel of this. We got a whole lot of crazy stuff going down, as well as big old evils coming back. So we're continuing on with what we missed, what we would have done this week, but we've already done, which was
the Mordrin Undead.
The Mordrin Undead.
I wanted to say the Brain of Morbius for some reason, but that was like a whole 10 seasons ago.
It was a long time ago. So we've got Turlo on board. Tegan's not too happy with his existence in general. She's really not happy with him.
Which I don't know why. He's like the best character.
Anyway, so under manipulation of the Black Guardian, because he's the bad guy now, which is great. Honestly,
I love that they brought back the same actor that played him right at the end of the Key to Time arc.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's almost like it was the 20th anniversary or something.
Yeah, but you know what? No, an anniversary is not supposed to go like that at all. What are you talking about?
What am I talking about?
Yeah. In regards to the Black Guardian, before I finish with my synopsis, I'm really, really sad that Alan Rickman didn't get a chance to play him, because Alan Rickman would have been the most superb Black Guardian.
Yeah.
In my mind. Which doesn't go. It doesn't say that the current Black Guardian we had was not any good. He was fantastic. The gravitas of his voice just sells him being an ultimate controller of the world. Like he sells
Kill
being
the Doctor.
sells being he sells being a god, you know? Like it sounds like a god's voice. It's there's no other way to explain it. And the way that his like the evil, the idea of evil is in him as well. So it's just he's superb, and I don't think we'll ever find anyone to play him in that way again. Like the next Guardian, if we ever have one again, that would be really nice if we could.
Would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. The only thing I can say about that is that they won't be able to play it in the same way. They'll have to change up the way that he is, because no one else could play it like what's his name, the one where
what is the Black Guardian's name? That's a good point.
Valentine.
That's such a cool name.
Yeah. So there's no one else who could play it.
The only one who could have played him in New Who, I agree, would have been Alan Rickman. He would have been the perfect Black Guardian. Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have played it the same way, but his take on Black Guardian would have been very interesting to see. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes when we finally ever have one of those stories again, because you know he is a cosmic entity. He wouldn't have died at any point. So you know, we should get it back anyway. So, Black Guardian's manipulating Turlo, as we know from Mordred Undead. Starts off with Black Guardian talking Turlo into continuing this manipulation. Tegan is extremely mistrustful of him, so he's got to like wiggle his way around trying to do stuff without her noticing. It ends up in the control room. And messes with the TARDIS control. Black Guardian says, "You're touching the heart of the TARDIS." Turlo's like, "Why am I not turning into a godlike being?" No one will ever know. So, continuing on from there, Turlo does manage to mess with it a little bit, causes the TARDIS to basically break down. Yeah. Some bad stuff starts happening, like a sort of toxin over the rest of the TARDIS, like a black mist flows in, and you know the Doctor is immediately not too pleased with the sight of this, and is basically like, well, the dimensions are breaking down. It's all buggered right now. Unfortunately, Nyssa happens to be in her room, and it seems to be like enveloping part of her room. She's not in a good place. The Doctor manages to figure something out to kind of get it sorted, and they end up kind of partially materializing on a ship somewhere. And it looks like they've merged as well. It looks like they're sort of like almost biomechanical in a way, that they've integrated themselves into the ship.
More like it's materialized over top of something instead of the way that it normally materializes as the police box. So. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, obviously the TARDIS would be capable of doing that. That instead of materializing as a new object, it would materialize over a doorway, so that the doorway would open into the TARDIS's extra dimensions. Would make it a little bit more reasonable than, you know, randomly being a police box in the middle of a spaceship. It probably is part of like
the chameleon circuit.
The chameleon circuit, what it would do that, but I guess because of just budget constraints, no police box in place, I guess.
Well, yeah, definitely. If they're saving it for the end of this anniversary season, for the anniversary serial. Yeah. So
instead, there's a doorway with a skull on it. Fantastically ornate skull. Like a lot of the art in this particular story was really fantastic, actually. Not just the skull on the doorway. So Nyssa runs out into the doorway, drops a book, a bunch of stuff's freaking out. Eventually the Doctor, Turlo, and Tegan run after her. Well, Tegan doesn't run after her that she's left behind. Yeah, a bunch of stuff happens with them running into the ship, getting trapped inside the ship and losing access to the TARDIS because the Black Guardian manages to foil the Doctor's plan with the metal chair and the door, which is fantastic, by the way. Is that the TARDIS like an entry in a way into a clearly advanced ship is stopped by like a mesh metal chair. So
I love how perfect Peter Davison's throw must have been as well.
oh yeah, it was
like
so fantastic.
he's just like yeah, and it like lands perfectly, and I was like, that has to be a special effects shot.
It was fantastic. It was great. Yeah, so they go off. Immediately, we're introduced to two other characters who seem like aliens initially because they're wearing these real amazing 80s space helmets, as well as the lady one has like got the lady afro 80s afro going on.
Oh, so good.
It's
So good.
You feel like, oh, these like sex aliens or something. That's got what it is. No, it turns out that they're actually just like salvages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that standard like we're doing a salvaging operation thing, but actually not. They're like raiders more than salvages because they're like we're just going to kill everyone on board, and then
Doesn't really go too well for them.
That the ship that they're actually on, trying to raid, although it came from like a real fancy, high well-off planet, it's actually full of lepers.
Yeah, oh well, yeah. It's some space virus. It's like laser.
Yeah, it's like lasers, but they're making it out as like
Yeah. But it's like some space leprosy.
Yeah, it's like a space leprosy, which is why it's called lasers instead of lepers. You know, it's that
It's
sort of
the
stuff.
80s. We can let it slide.
Exactly. So it's done pretty well. Honestly, that whole idea of like a disease that's incurable. It's also kind of related to cancer in the same way as well because it's cured by radiation. It's really interesting. But yeah, so they freak out. One of them in particular freaks out way more than the other.
Yeah. Ah, we're all gonna die in here.
It was a perfect ending to the first story, honestly. Like that's always it. Like the first story has like got just like the build up is perfect almost every time. Like I don't know how they mess it up. In New Who, I don't know how you mess that up.
I think it comes down to what you've been saying in the past, is that New Who just doesn't have the time.
Yeah, but like even if like I guess that really is it because you've got a full 20 minutes to do a build up instead of like 10 minutes if that. So yeah, I guess it really depends though. I mean they've done good build ups before. I guess it's with the shorter time it's always hit and miss, but with a good solid amount of time you can always do a good build up. So yeah, right. Yeah. So that's basically what it is. They're on a leper ship. They're stuck there basically, can't get to the TARDIS. Eventually they realize that this ship is going to a particular place called Terminus, which is apparently like, well, I guess it's like the leper colony really, but it's supposedly a place where they get cured, all that sort of stuff. And there's like this weird, like, at first it looks like some sort of like culty nursey thing going on with these guys that are in like this real peculiar armor that's
I love the armor design.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the armor that Gary Oldman wears at the beginning of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, it reminds me of that, but it also reminds me of the armor, the like weird evil armor worn by the bad guys from what's that movie? It's got Vin Diesel in it. It's actually a sequel.
The Necromancers?
To Pitch Black.
The Necromongers from Chronicles of Riddick?
That's the one, Chronicles of Riddick. Yeah, it reminds me of them as well. That's why I got like that weird like culty vibe from them as well. The fact that it's like shaped like human muscle structure makes it like it just feels weird, but also like looks kind of ancient as well. So it's like, did they find it on board or something? That's really weird. It gives us like real this real sense to it that it's been around a while, that it's like it's got a cultural meaning behind it rather than just being armor.
Yeah.
But then the Doctor just like passes it off as just being like radiation wear. It's like, really? You're not going to explain that anymore? Because like this looked way cooler than what you were saying it is. So I don't know. I feel like that could have been thought out a little bit better, but otherwise it was cool. So yeah.
I think you are right, though. I think it was originally a cultural adornment, and they might have integrated the radiation into it, because it seems like they're like not only are they nurses and this is like an occupation, because that's what originally where they were, but it feels like at one point this was actually a medical facility and it degraded into a totalitarian environment.
Although at the same time, it seems like all the people who are these nurse-esque stuff are actually like soldiers that were like forced into slavery as well. So there's like this real interesting backstory to this that would have been really cool if we had gone into it more. But I guess even in the amount of time they had, they couldn't go into that. So it's pretty crazy.
Hopefully Big Finish has picked it up.
Yeah, if Big Finish,
please.
Big Finish could pick it up, or if New Who could go over something about like this Lazar's disease, it would be easy to go over.
Let's be honest, that's never gonna.
Yeah, it's probably never gonna happen, but it would be cool, you know. Just like there's so much stuff in old Who that you could just build on. That's why Big Finish is a thing.
Yeah,
come on. Yeah. So these guys. That are there in the suits, they're basically forcing the treatment of these and enforcing the treatment of these people by forcing them into basically a radiation zone where they get blasted with radiation and then sometimes cured, basically. But they also they've been in radiation for far too long and are basically dying already and are kept there against their will, and the only reason they don't revolt and take control is basically because they are getting supplied by an anti-radiation medication called Hydromel. So that's their story, that's their deal. There's also this other guy who's like a wolf, like animatronic wolf person, who seems to have been on Terminus the whole time.
Yeah.
Who's controlled by a signal box. He seems like a weird kind of genie-esque thing. It's really weird. His thing as well, I'd really like to know more about. Just this whole ship, I really want to know more about.
I absolutely agree. I want to know heaps about this world, because like that sort of wolf guy was a really good practical effect, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on Doctor Who's budget. And B is just like there's so much like to find out about him, especially since he's got like a code of honor, because that's how the Doctor brings them over to his side, is with the whole like, you're honorable, and I took away this mind control device. Cheers, Doctor.
Well, it's more like he's controlled by this device, but in the same brand of like Aladdin's genie, he's like. When he finally fulfills the Doctor's wish, he asks, "Can you release me from this?" And the Doctor's like, "Yeah, right." Breaks the box. It's pretty funny. But yeah. So, what really happened? The basic gist of this, past all this other stuff that's going on, is the Doctor finds out that the ship that they're on, Terminus, was busted a little while ago, and there's basically a bunch of bad stuff going on with the technology in it. There's another one of the armored guys, Boar, who was trying to figure out what was going on. He finds out that one of the engines had blown up a little while ago, and the other one's almost going to. And he was trying to stop it when he accidentally pulled a wire, which basically turned it on. And then they find out that this ship could actually travel in time, and had extremely devastating fuel on board. It had problems with it when it originally had problems with its first engine. It had gone backward in time, not knowing where it had gone, outside of the actual universe, dumped its load, it exploded, and created the Big Bang, and then went forward in time to where it is now. And yeah, basically, it's the reason why the universe exists. And the ignition of its second engine, which would have immediately exploded because of how long it's been around, would have destroyed the universe. It had that happen. So the Doctor gets the Wolfman to stop the engines from blowing up, and then cuts all the cables, destroys the machine, so that it's never going to do that. Yeah. Some real stuff happened in this. Like, there's a lot to this, and I honestly couldn't go over with it I would have to. You'd actually have to watch it to understand how much really went on in it, and it's a good 60 minutes long.
It is a massive story.
And that's the thing, is that within that time, there's still a whole lot of stuff that wasn't told. That's like really interesting to know about, like what these raiders are about.
I love how like when their captain figures out it's a quarantine ship, they're like, "Oh shit!" and then they just leave them behind.
It's great.
He's just like, "Oh."
So there's a whole bunch of that stuff going on. In the background, Turlough's fighting with the Black Guardian. Just not having a good time in general. Getting back on the TARDIS. Nyssa eventually realizes that she can synthesize the medication that these guys are getting, and basically she's like, I'm gonna help these guys. And the Doctor and Tegan are like, no, come with us. And she's like, no, I'm gonna stay.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right.
I like what she says to the Doctor though, because the Doctor keeps pushing she goes, don't make this a bad farewell.
Yeah.
And the Doctor seems kind of shitty, actually.
Yeah. He's not happy about it. He really liked Nyssa.
Yeah. Especially because, like, now that Adric's dead, he's like, I've got no one else that's the same intelligence as me.
I have to deal with these two idiots now. Thanks.
He's like, great, thanks, Nyssa. That's really what I wanted.
So yeah, that's basically what went down, synopsis wise. But yeah, there's just so many like nuances to this whole story and the world that's built on it. Just that would be so cool. Just little pieces of it that would be cool to see like fleshed out properly, like the place that this ship came from, or the ship that they landed on, why it's designed like that. Like, it's not just for being a plague ship. So, and even if it was, it would be really, really, really not cool to put all these death iconography all over a ship that is just meant for plague people. Like, especially when you're trying to tell them that they're going to a place they're going to get cured. You don't just put death iconography over the ship that they're on.
And I honestly think that's why they didn't believe that they were going to get cured.
Exactly.
Even though they actually were.
Well, it was like a 50-50, basically.
Yeah.
Which is also the reason she stayed behind as well. She's like, I can synthesize this medication for radiation sickness as well as perfect this cure for you. Because it's just needs to be sorted out, basically.
Yeah.
So it's even if we just like get a what happens to Nyssa story, like Nyssa talking about her life after this, and she explains, like, in that time she also explains all those other things. That would be really, really cool. And because we don't need New Who to do that, we can just get Big Finished.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because apparently when the Time War box sets for the 8th Doctor come out, Nyssa is going to be involved.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that, because apparently, looking at this, it's going to have Nyssa on the ship with the 8th Doctor, still in Terminus.
I see.
So maybe we might get this stuff explored.
That would be pretty cool.
Unless it's just 8 going, here, Nyssa, I'm here to pick you up. Let's go do some Time War stuff. Okay. And then I'll be like, no, explain Terminus, please.
Yeah, because there's so much stuff with that. Like, it's just
Like,
crazy.
are there more of that wolf guy?
Yeah, like exactly. Like, and his like, is he from the ship? Like, was he there originally? Is like an android from that ship? Also, where did the ship originally come from? Like, it's capable of time travel and has materials in it that blow up to create universes. Like, what? Like, is it even from our universe? Like, is that the deal?
That's a good question, eh? Is it actually from our universe?
Yeah. And also, what does the Doctor talk? Yeah, like, it's just there's so much to it. It's too much. It's too much.
I love how even TARDIS Wikia is like, the Black Guardian refers to the time-space element as the heart of the TARDIS. However, in Boomtown and Parting of the Ways... That's so true.
Yes.
This is a brilliant classic story. I think that this whole season's been good. I don't think we've had a bad one in the 20th anniversary season. I think there's a lot of exploration done here, and Jonathan Nathan Turner's still not pulling punches. I can't remember what the gentleman's name was, but one of the guards was like, he was frowned upon by the other guards, but it turned out he was actually the man. Like, in the first 2 parts, you think he's a bit of a butt, but in parts 3 and 4, he's actually the man. What was his name?
I can't remember now.
But yeah, because it turned out that the reason he was a bit of a butt is because he actually was a decorated soldier and he made one mistake and then ended up in Terminus.
Yeah. And then like he was kind of a butt to everybody for a while there. And then once he basically tells the story, that's when it like he stops being as much of a butt.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor and Nissa are like, "Hey, we can do these things," and he's like, "Oh, all right, I'm not gonna." I love how
he starts telling all of his mates about it. He's like, "Hey, man, I got this guy. He can do this thing."
Yeah, and the guy's like, "I'm totally in on this. This is great.
This is awesome."
Perfect. Although initially, like in the first few episodes, he also like reminded me of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. So
he does look like that actor
as well.
He does actually look like that actor.
He does. That's why I'm just like,
Yeah.
I was not. Like initially, because he was being a bad guy as well. Like I was like, okay, this fits for me. But then he starts being nice. I'm like, this is getting weird here.
Yeah. Hey, no. You're ruining who I think you are.
So yeah, that's Terminus. Basically, watch it and you'll know. It's good. So.
Yeah. If you've got BritBox access, which we don't in New Zealand yet, if you've got BritBox access, it's on there. The whole of Classic Who is, even the reconstructions, which I think is awesome. Loose canon is actually canon now, guys. Until obviously it all gets animated, which is happening at the moment. Which apparently Wheel in Space is the next story to get the missing episodes reanimated. So I'm looking forward to that, especially since there's going to be a better animation company behind this one. Not to throw shade on the Power of the Daleks guys, because they obviously worked their butts off, but just from what I've seen from the company that's meant to be doing it, I think we're going to be in for a big surprise. Terminus is bloody brilliant. Again, as Harry Scully was saying, I love the Black Guardian's performance in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kill the Doctor. I love how like he gets Turlo to take them to Terminus, and he's like, okay, I put the Doctor on a plague ship. It should be so easy for you to kill him now, Turlo. Turlo's like, I don't want to do it. It's like, dude.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, I can't. I'm still like, I still don't understand what the Black Guardian thought he could get out of Turlo. Like for real. Like anybody else.
He's actually a kid. It's like, hey kid, can you do this murder? Dude, I'm a kid. Yeah, but you're an alien kid.
Exactly. Like it's so weird. It doesn't. Anybody else could have helped him. Like
yeah, like when Tegan was still possessed by the Mara, that's when I would have got involved.
Exactly. Like immediately been like, hey, I can get you revived and like corporeal, all of the things, because I'm a god. So if you just want to kill the Doctor, that'd be cool.
That would be great.
That would have been way better than, hey kid, kill the Doctor.
And I love how he's so confused that this child won't commit murder. He's like, why won't this kid commit the crime of murder for me? I'm so perplexed. And then I love that he electrocutes Turlo in the story. He's like, I've had enough of your crap, kid. Electricity.
He does so much messed up stuff to Turlo, for real. That's great.
Hey kid, it's really strange. I keep hurting you, and you don't do the thing I want. I'm confused about what's going on here. You're acting like a kid, but I am a kid. But you're an alien kid.
Good stuff.
The Black Guardian. I love that, like, Jonathan Nathan Turner's like, it's the 20th anniversary, I'm going to bring back the gods for it. But I'm going to get one of them to turn a child into one of their agents. Oh, that doesn't make any... I know it doesn't, but the Black Guardian thinks it does. And that's the best part. That's why he's getting more angry with his own plan.
Like the god of chaos.
Yeah.
So he's kind of insane already. So it makes sense that way.
Hey, kid, shh. Hey, here's these murder things that you can murder the doctor with.
Well, I've messed it up. Of course you did.
Of course.
My plan all along.
That was everything. I never wanted to kill the doctor in the first place. But
That's
yes,
the thing as well. Like, I really, when it comes to the Black Guardian, I find it really interesting that he wants to kill the Doctor, because the Doctor is clearly more an agent of chaos than order in most cases.
Yeah.
So why would he want to get rid of him, like, ever?
But it's because, like, in the Key to Time, the Doctor, like, didn't give him the key, and then ever since then, he's just had a chip on his shoulder. He's like, man, I can't believe that stupid Time Lord's gonna give me the key. That's all I wanted.
I mean, like, that's the only thing. Like, he's holding that grudge. And he is a god, a literal god, and he's holding such a grudge. It's so weird. So many gods just hold grudges for the Doctor. It's so weird.
It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. But that leads us into our next story, Enlightenment. Enlightenment is the same length in terms of minutes, but I feel it's definitely a shorter story. Yeah, it feels shorter. I felt like I'd only been watching it for about 45 minutes, and I was like, well, I've just watched four 20-minute long segments here. I don't know about you, but I watched
guess
this...
like the special cut where it's like all cut together. Yeah, that probably makes it feel a lot shorter as well.
It did,
because you don't have to skip between title sequences. Yeah.
Oh, how I wish all of Who had a marathon setting. Which they've got on the Funimation uncut Dragon Ball sets, which is pretty cool. A marathon setting. You only see the intro and the outro once.
Nice.
So this story is, again, the Black Guardian is like, I need you to kill the Doctor, Turlo. And so I'm going to take you to this thing. The White Guardian tries to get into the Doctor's TARDIS, but the TARDIS is still heavily damaged from the beginning of Terminus, because Turlo did some crazy stuff. The White Guardian's trying desperately to talk to the Doctor, but he's coming in and out of sync. This is the actor that played him in the Key to Time arc as well, but without his cool beard.
Without his Kentucky Fried Chicken. Really.
Yeah, without his Kentucky Fried Chicken and his beach chair. This is the first time we see him in the ceremonial garb of the gods as well. He's got a dove for his headdress.
Oh yeah, the headdresses, man. They just wow.
I've always liked that imagery though of like the feathers for the gods. It's like just
the raven hat and the dove hat.
Because with my fanatical fiction, I made the Black Guardian the main bad. And just like when he would come into rooms, he would like morph out of feathers that were like fluttering in through like all the openings. I just love that imagery of like him being made of feathers, just like oh my god. So the Doctor and all of them end up in this race with a race of lesser gods. They're called the Eternals, and they're in a race where they've created spaceships that look like old maritime vessels from Earth. I like how it's explicitly Earth, and I think that was like just the Black Guardian having a lull more than it was the production team not being able to come up with like other alien races and like past vessels from them. I do think this was definitely because it was the Guardians who set up this race for the Eternals.
Well, at the same time, I think the Eternals, based on what it was seemed like, where they could read human minds, it seems like they were like human gods was the idea. So the Eternals were based around where Earth was. That's why it also happened in the Earth solar system.
Oh, right.
So,
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Well,
so I
that
have a
makes a
feeling,
lot of sense.
yeah, that the reason why that it was Earth vessels was because they were earthly gods. So
Oh my goodness, that
that
means
it
that
makes
Earth religions are the
yeah,
Eternals.
exactly. That's what it's trying to say. That's what I'm thinking that would
Oh,
trying to
that
say
makes
with
so much sense as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I quite like that. Oh, that's awesome. So the Eternals appear to be playthings of the higher gods, the Guardians, which is pretty brutal because they're even playthings to the White Guardian, which makes me question how good he is.
Mm.
Um,
He's not necessarily good or bad. That's the thing, is that the Guardians really aren't like good or bad. They're just order and chaos.
Yeah.
And naturally humans see chaos as evil, so that's why we've attributed him to being evil.
Yeah.
But in theory,
he's just filling out his role.
exactly, because the White Guardian's also responsible for everyone dying ever, because that's how order is. So, death's also kind of bad, guys. So we could say that the White Guardian's also evil. Come on.
Well, that is a really good point. Holy crap. I've been looking at it so narrow-mindedly. Oh, I wouldn't make a good Doctor Who companion at all.
I don't know. This seems pretty narrow-minded.
Come on, Jamie. You speak foreign. So again, Turlo is trying desperately to either off the Doctor or break his contract with the Guardian. And he seems to flip-flop between that quite a bit in this story. One of the gods, what was his name again? What was there was an Eternal, his name was Mariner. And he throughout the story, begins to, because they're all psychic, he starts to look into Tegan's mind, and Mariner discovers what he calls existence, but I'm pretty certain he was actually describing love. And I really wanted Mariner to become a companion. Do you reckon it was lust?
I absolutely feel like it was.
Yeah, actually, now that you've said it that way, that it was more that he was like lusting after existence. I
feel like
more than...
because it's like it feels like it's pairing the lust for existence with the lust for Tegan as well. But I think the reason why it's like that is because Tegan's being a pretty foreign girl in British in Britain, she probably gets a lot of men, lusting after her. Not just the time she comes from as well. So I can imagine that he is going into her mind, picking up on that thing that she's going to imagine that she's going to project onto most men anyway, because that's just a thing that happens to her. So he's probably picked up on that and just continued with it, because it's also his lust for existence as well as that projection. So he's become both lusting after her and existence.
Holy crap, that's just given me a whole new outlook on Mariner. I don't know, I think he still could have worked as a companion, and maybe he could have gained a natural love for Tegan.
Yeah, I
instead
think
of being a creepazoid like Tegan was feeling he was being. Because that could have been cool if he died in Revelations of the Daleks.
I think what would have been really awesome is if the Doctor had if the Tegan had vouched for him, that the White Guardian had given him a mind of his own.
Oh, and then he could be mortal.
Yeah. Instead of just being you can stay, he just okay, you can only stay if you actually become mortal. And then he'd be yes. And then not know what to do with himself because he'd literally been created out of Tegan's mind.
Yeah. Oh, that could have been cool. Because, I reckon how I was seeing it, and I like what you've done there, is making him mortal. So that he leaves being an Eternal, so he's no longer a cog for the clockwork of the Guardians. If then he could go on, and then he could understand, people, and we could have Turlo being annoyed with him because he's just too simple at this point in time. Because he's it's just annoying that he doesn't understand this, and Mariner not understanding why Turlo doesn't like him, and Tegan's I don't like him either. And then when we come to Resurrection of the Daleks, we could have had him die off. And then that could have helped with Tegan leaving.
as well. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh man, just classic.
And just
Who.
yeah, that whole like having an arc for him would have been really cool. Actually.
I would have loved it. I quite like the actor's performance as Mariner as well. Just the inflection in certain words that he has.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't understand this feeling. And Tegan's like, it's called love. And he goes, oh, I think it's called existence. And Tegan's probably like, nah, I think you're actually in love with me, bro, but all good.
Yeah, the existence of that thing between your legs. That's what it's called.
He's like, I didn't have this until, the Guardians had this race and they stopped us from being consciousness and turned us into physical beings. And I'm really liking this physical being thing. Sure you are, Matt. But yeah, this Turlo ends up teaming up with one of the Eternals that's definitely on the Black Guardian's side. But I loved her. I loved every second she was on screen. She was great.
She was great.
And just I love just how much she enjoyed the chaotic nature of everything, and then she was like blowing up her friends, and like and then like Tiga's like, that's terrible, and the Doctor's like, nah, they're just gonna turn back into being consciousness, so all good. And like she even says that to Turlo. She's like, Turlo's like, you're killing them. She's like, no, they'll be all good. He's like, what about the humans? And she's like, well, what about them? It's just like, they're dead, but my like my god siblings aren't, so all good.
Yeah, it's pretty ruthless.
And like that's when I think that's Turlo's final straw. He's like, I've had enough of your stupid stuff, Black Guardian. I'm fighting for the Doctor.
Yeah.
The Black Guardian's like, well, I'm just gonna kill you then. And the Doctor saves him. The Black Guardian's like, man.
Yeah.
And when they turn up at the end to Enlightenment, like I love that city, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
That was cool. But when they get there, the Black Guardian's like, but I don't want to play by the rules. And the White Guardian's like, play by the rules, Black Guardian. It's like, okay. And then like the Black Guardian leaves. He's like, this isn't over, Doctor. It's not over. And then he like leaves. And the White Guardian's like, you're probably going to have to fight him again, because he's still cut about the whole key to time thing. And the Fifth Doctor's like, I don't care. Like, I actually don't care. I'm taking my companions and I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then that's the end of Enlightenment. It's just the Doctor's just in a bit of a huff because he's like, I'm sick of gods playing games with me. I'm just some silly Time Lord that barely finished school. Leave me alone. Like, just leave me alone.
Basically, like he really should have said at that point, "What White Guardian? If you hadn't got me to go and get that time key, we wouldn't have this problem now, would we?"
I see what you're trying to say here, Doctor, but
also, why is he angry at me? You were literally the person that caused this. Why isn't he fighting with you?
Well, you're the one who chose not to give it to him. You told me not to give it to him. Legit, if this channel actually had a budget, I would totally do a skit where we're with the Doctor and the White Guardian talking. Yeah. That would be great. Just like, whoa. You know what? Fine, I'll take all your TARDIS. Fly on one of these boats to home to Gallifrey. So that'd be so good. Just like he's annoying the White Guardian too. They just don't get along anymore.
Just both hate him. Like.
That would have been great. But that's the end for part A this week, guys. Enlightenment and Terminus are both great stories. Again, if you're in the United States, you can watch this all on BritBox. If you're in the UK, I believe BBC's gone completely digital, so you can go ahead and watch your catalogues there. And if you're in little old New Zealand, well, the DVDs are now out of print, so we're kind of out of luck now, guys. We'll catch you in part B.
Mm-hmm.